Okay guys, this is one of the last part of this tutorial. Now we will see how to fix a lot of things, make all the shadows more linked together, more well ambiented, and we will work especially with our airbrush or thick color from fine art tubes. For this process I will use inks and Winsor & Newton, everybody. Both of them, Liquitex inks or Winsor & Newton, are very strong pigment, and we will use very diluted to blend surface, enrich color, making glades, make some part very much deeper, and we will use to create our final ambience effect. As you can see, at the moment the miniature is not finished, is for the most part sketched. During the tutorial I am focused my painting in the front, also because for the rear part is the same, or maybe will be less because it's a part that is less important. And at the moment the figure is working very well because from our starting idea we worked on several textures, several kind of materials, but we kept all our pre-painted, pre-paint surface. We keep the lights, the general ambience. On the other side we keep the warm effect. We include also some strange and strong color, for example the tentacles, and the figure looks to me very well balanced, but now we need to make some magic tricks to create a strong contrast and put on all the focus on the face, and only then we will finish everything detailing very well. During the tutorial, repeat, I am focused only on these sides, but at the end I will show to you also the final results with all the parts painted. In any case, all the rear part, under part, and the less important details will be painted with less care. Will be painted, will be very well sketched, and maybe some details will be refined, but in another kind of value. Usually I prefer left some parts a bit sketched because are not useful. If you look at a canvas painter, or a portrait canvas painter, usually they focus on the face and then they move on on the borders of the canvas, sketching colors, creating a sort of illusion, but without go deep in the details. For miniature painting, in my style, my way to look at miniature painting, my choice is very similar. I prefer be very accurate, very dedicated painting process for the most important parts, and then I left all the less important zone of the miniature just a bit sketched, or maybe with some ambience color, ambience effect to create a story, to create movement with colors, but without go very deeper with details. Obviously it's just my point of view about miniature painting, and this is not a rule. It's just a way the miniature may be a little different by the common and more usual way. So let's proceed with the airbrush and brush step. To start, I take a bit of Mars Black. Is a very strong deep color. I put a bit of color on my palette, and I use this kind of wash to create strong shadows on the non-metallic parts. In this way I keep a bit the details, but I'm going to reduce a lot the brightness. During this step, I am not focused on a step. During this step, I'm not focused on a single zone. Now I start to work on each part of the model. For example, during the process of drying of the Mars Black, I can start to put a bit of violet of perilene on the left side of the face of the chef, because this side at the moment is too bright with no details. I think that I will not to paint details inside, but I need to make it very deep. I need to remove it a bit from the view. In this way, details will be not too much important. I use a bit of red, a bit of violet, and maybe also a bit of black. Okay, now looks better, looks more deep, is more coherent with our kind of painting. At the same time, I can use the black to create a strong contrast, shadows here. Here. It's a sort of dancing, because I move from a zone to the other one. I can mix a bit of violet of perilene with a bit of black, and I can start to create a sort of general shadows on the cloth. My first idea was to keep it very dark, so we can start to make it more black with a bit of warm tones inside. This is why I include the violet of perilene. Maybe I can increase some contrast, create some extra volumes. So at this moment, the general idea is to start to blend, but not blend in terms of blending from the brighter point to the most darker one, but more with a meaning of coherence, to smooth everything, to create a strong contrast, but to make it more close. Each part needs to be very well balanced with the part close. and sometimes could be a sort of strong shocking process, because we are going to work on everything, also the part that maybe was more refined, but I don't care, because it's not my final touch, it's just a process that helped me to arrive to the details step. For example, this part here is not important for me, so I paint it with a very deep color. This part here is a bit too much cold, so I can warm it a bit with a bit of red. It's just a step of checking. I'm checking things, and now I proceed with airbrush to refine this kind of checking. In the shadows of the green, black green part, I'm pushing with a lot of red. This will help me to create the final ambience storytelling, because if you remember, in the first episode we said that this character was in his dirty messy truck, and probably there was a sort of light reddish one from this side and another cold light more strong, maybe a screen from these sides. So this process is nothing more than a sort of holistic step that help us to combine everything together. For the first time on this tutorial I'm using real glazes or washing. I don't know which kind of term is more correct, but it's a sort of very well diluted paint, or a sort of watercolor process. We use a lot of water, and usually I prefer to wait to let dry in a very slowly process, but at the same time I need to check, because I need to avoid some pots of color that during the dry process will ruin our surface, creating a sort of strange thick gluish part of paint that will be very bad and look like very dirty. If at the end of this process we will have a miniature, a surface of our miniature too much gloss or too much shiny, usually I use the AK Ultra Matte Varnish to make it matte. And after this process, usually I repeat this one, but more accurate, more focused, to get gloss or shiny or satin finish only on some parts that I won't keep them with this kind of finish. Of course, it depends a lot by the mini. Depends a lot by our storytelling and our kind of style. It's not an easy choice to take because, in my opinion, the different kind of surface finish that we obtain help us to tell a lot about the miniature. Okay, look now here, for example, there was a sort of pot that was drying very bad, so we take and move on the miniature to help the correct dry process. Okay. Maybe we can use a bit the airbrush to help the drying process, but we need to be very soft. Or we risk to move the water and create some very bad mistake on the surface. Maybe to do this is better use the airbrush from the upper part. In this way, if we move accidentally the water, it will go on the base, on the lower part of the boost. Yeah, this kind of things could happen if you use the airbrush from the opposite side and ruin everything. Okay, start to create the last ambience shadows and lights setting using airbrush. So now we will proceed in this way. I will try to make a strong shadow on the cloth, make it more black, but keeping all the tiny and very thin texture. Then I will try to create the strong light greenish or bluish from here in the correct way to prepare all the painting on this part, and then I will restore the strong red line that in some zone of the miniature we keep it, but in other one we totally lose. After this one we will start to paint all the details and to finish everything, smoothing and finishing all the parts. So first of all we use the black. For this step I use very diluted inks. I put on my airbrush cap a lot of water and just a drop or two of ink. Okay, we are making more black the cloth. We can use a bit of black to increase the strong contrast on the muscles, but just a bit because it's a bit risky using black on skin tone. We can increase a bit the strong contrast on the facial hair. All the stuff are very thin layering with airbrush, nothing of real strong. Okay. Using the right point of view, right direction, we can help us to clean a bit the wrinkles on the head. Okay. Let's go with bluish. Also in this case I add a lot of water because I need to check, control and manage very well all the thin layers. Our first beginning idea was to have a rim light, so I try now to restore it. It's very important, the point of view and the orientation of our airbrush shot. Okay, let's see how it's starting to work very well, and everything is well balanced, is not disturbing, and look like very natural. This because we painted from the beginning this kind of light here. Now to keep a bit the balance we can include a bit of blue on the lower part. Maybe especially on this part of the tentacles, also because then we will realize some special effect, creating the very disgusting and glowing thick blood. But also maybe including a bit of blue inside the shadows of the black. Okay. And now we can use a bit of reddish violet to restore this kind of ambience from this side, but also to increase some of our volumes here on the face. Okay. Okay, now look like more our starting idea. The two sides are very well balanced, but at the same time create a very strong contrast. And I think I will add a bit of glowing effect from the tentacles, and for this kind of effect I usually use some fluo ink. Fluo ink is very useful also to give brightness on the skin tone, using maybe yellow fluo, orange fluo, but in a very high diluted percentage, maybe a full cup of water of the airbrush with just a drop, because it's very intense. So a lot of water and just a single drop of ink. Okay guys, also the last step before the final step, detailing and smoothing and fixing everything is done. We have a miniature that is not finished, it's just sketched, but with a lot of variation, a lot of blending, a lot of interesting components, and everything has been done in a few hours of paint, and in a very easily way, because we don't spend a lot of time blending or focusing on a single detail. We have painted the miniature, painting everything with a very huge brush in a very relaxed way. So this is why this tutorial is focused on the funny experience of using a lot of colors all together, and not to reach maybe a perfect miniature for competition or for something like similar. It's more focused on having fun. Also because all this line that we created in Mindwork games is focused on a very funny subject that give you the possibility to tell a lot of different story. So let's go for the final step.